All right, today on the show, sorry for the delay for our live audience right there. We apologize. Today in the show, though, we got a great show for you because we're going to cover everything that's gone on over the last 24 hours. Obviously, we have some, it depends on who you talk to. If you really thought Republicans were going to do well in blue cities or blue states, or people who were kind of Republicans but allergic to MAGA, allergic to Trump, didn't embrace the America First idea. Not too surprised with any of the election results last night. But in the wake of that, Donald Trump is trying to press his advantage and trying to wake up Senate Republicans to nuke the filibuster, end the 60-vote threshold, and actually get his agenda passed. We're going to talk about that. We talked about it yesterday, but we have Republicans that I believe many Republicans don't want the filibuster nuked because it would mean they would have to actually vote on Trump's agenda, and I think many of them don't support it, and I think they love to use the Democrats as the scapegoat. Removing that would upset their donors and also potentially expose them to their voters back home as not actually being who they say they are on the campaign trail. The Paul Harrell program starts right now.
The Paul Harrell program.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. So I am flying solo today, and I want to give a big shout out to Eric Haynes for filling in for Rob as much as he has. And really just the future plans of having all three of us here on a more consistent basis, as well as other guests coming in the show. But I really appreciate Eric for filling in last week and this week as well. And Rob's going to be back very soon. And honestly, what's fascinating is, I guess this is just more of a programming note. There's really nothing fascinating about it other than the fact that I'm really excited to go deer hunting. Yeah, modern gun season is open, coming up this Saturday in Arkansas. So I am going to be out, out from this chair, from behind this microphone tomorrow through Monday. So we won't have a show until Tuesday, and that's because I've got some stuff to do tomorrow, specifically cooking brisket for somebody. But anyway, the point is, I have been, because I'm a deer hunter, just a little side note before we dive in, because I am a deer hunter, and this is that time of year where you get the itch. Deer hunters know exactly what I'm talking about. I've been watching, videos, been watching deer hunting videos. I've been, you longingly look at any forest you can get your hands on. You just drive into the car, be like, oh, look at those woods. And, you start to visualize the deer that, if you're a deer hunter, you understand they just sometimes seems like they materialize out of the leaves themselves, and then there's the deer. But in doing all that, I've seen several videos over the last specifically 24 hours of, good hunts, good shots, specifically shots in some cases with 30-06s. That ring a bell? I am more convinced than ever, and I'm just going to say this, that Charlie Kirk was not shot with a 30-06. I don't see how. There are still so many questions surrounding the assassination of Charlie Kirk. The story doesn't make sense, as we've been told. Now there may be a plethora of evidence that we're going to see at some point that makes everything look crystal clear. But as of right now, I would say that was the main one. As I was watching these deer hunting videos, I was just thinking, and somebody who's killed, many deer myself, that's just gaslighting. It's absolutely insane for anybody that shot a high-powered rifle and seen what it does to a deer. So, all I'll say is that's where my mind was at as we started. But let's just talk about the filibuster for a second, because I made this post, or I made this comment the other day when I was on with Eric. We were talking specifically about this. So the nuclear option. So Mark Mitchell of Rasmussen Reports, who I've interviewed before, he's a really, really knowledgeable guy. He says this: the nuclear option is really dangerous because then voters will see that Republicans won't use it to pass laws. Republicans won't actually use it to pass laws. So I really do believe this. I don't know how many Republicans. There's some Republicans that have already come out. You've got Tommy Tuberville from Alabama saying, yes, nuke the filibuster. Ron Johnson of Wisconsin says, yes, nuke the filibuster. But then you get people like Kennedy from Louisiana, who is a no. And you've got a bunch of others that are no's, I'm sure. And so the question is, will Donald Trump be able to make a deal with these people, be able to get them to do what they need to do? It's not just about reopening the government, though. You know, there's some that are saying, well, maybe we could just nuke the filibuster for appropriations and nothing else. And that's a terrible idea. And then, of course, you've got the people who are Republicans, the commentators who are saying, oh, my gosh, the Democrats, when they get back in power, it'll be terrible. Well, the Democrats are going to nuke the filibuster. It is inevitable. If they get back in power, they will nuke the filibuster. I'm sure of it, and so is President Donald Trump. So President Donald Trump had a breakfast this morning in the White House. All the senators came, including Senator Rand Paul, and he was urging them to do the right thing and get rid of the filibuster.
It's time for Republicans to do what they have to do, and that's terminate the filibuster. It's the only way you can do it. And if you don't terminate the filibuster, you'll be in bad shape. We won't pass any legislation. There'll be no legislation passed for 3.25. We have 3.25 years, so that's a long time. But when they can't do an extension, and John, I think they've done an extension every single time they've ever been asked forever. This is the first time they haven't done an extension. Extensions are supposed to be easy, but if they won't do an extension, they won't do any bill, even a simple bill. And we should do our own bills. We should get out. We should do our own bills. We should open up. We should start tonight with the country's open. Congratulations. Then we should pass voter ID. We should pass no mail-in voting. We should pass all the things that we want to pass, make our elections secure and safe, because California is a disaster. Many of the states are disasters. But can you imagine when they vote almost unanimously against voter ID? All we want is voter ID. You go to a grocery store, you have to give ID. You go to a gas station, you give ID. But for voting, they want no voter ID. That's only for one reason, because they cheat. We would pass that in 15 minutes. If you don't get it, you'll never pass that. You'll never talk about mail-in ballots. Mail-in ballots make it automatically corrupt. If you have mail-in ballots, automatically it's correct. Even Jimmy Carter, they had the Carter Commission after he got out of office, and he had a group of very distinguished people, Democrats and Republicans, and they passed, they recommended things take place. It was a long time ago. And they said about mail-in ballots, if there is mail-in ballots, there will definitely be corruption because, you know, they pass through too many hands. I mean, you go in to vote and they want you cut.
So here's the deal. He went on like that for a while, but he's exactly right. The midterms, I mean, there's a lot here. There's so much to unpack here. You have the midterms that are a year from now. The country is going to look totally different a year from now. There's a lot that's going to happen. I hope. A lot of good things. Who knows? Maybe a lot of bad things. I don't know. But the midterms could be a bloodbath for Republicans. It traditionally or historically, I guess it is. But the Democrats cheat. We've seen it. So if the Republicans really do care about the country, they would nuke the filibuster, they would pass voter ID, and they would end mail-in ballots. And they would do it immediately. And I'll just give you an example from the election results last night. Emerald Robinson retweeted somebody by the name of Paul Fleuret, who says, yeah, and this is specifically talking about the Attorney General's race in Virginia, where Democrats there elected a guy who wants his political opponents dead and the children of his political opponents dead. Says, yeah, this is totally organic, rolls eyes. Miyares versus Jones in the Attorney General in Virginia. Look at how Miyares' votes fall off a cliff right as Jones' votes seemingly, let's see, what does he go on to say? Seemingly attach themselves to a rocket. Do you see that? This is just a snapshot. Going along, 7:15, 7:30, and then all of a sudden between 7:30 and 7:45, Miyares' votes tank and Jones' votes go up like a rocket. Go up, go down at the same time. People look at data like this and they don't believe it, and I don't blame them, especially after what we watched with 2020. So this is going to continue to happen until Republicans nuke the filibuster and actually secure our elections. And I would even say go to paper ballots, because I think that's obvious in the age of AI. You don't want our votes. You don't want our votes connected to networks and everything else. I mean, it's absolutely insane when you think about how we're to the point where we can't even believe our own eyes when it comes to different AI videos, and it's only going to get worse. But we're going to have electronic voting machines, right? Where something that is soulless is going to decide who our leaders are. It's absolutely insane. It makes no sense whatsoever, and yet here we are, having this debate. All of these things need to happen, even for us to even have, I guess I would say, even for us to have a chance at, the Dems not taking the House. And what are they going to do? They will impeach. They will impeach. And long and short of it, I mean, honestly, President Trump's legacy, and there's many people out there that have many different opinions about what it is now, what it will be. He's going to be. I mean, if the Dems take the House and they do the impeachment thing and everything that they're going to do, it'll just be basically 12 years. Because then 4 years and then 4 years now, but the 4 years in between, it'll basically just be 12 years of nothing. I mean, potentially nothing. So, will the Republicans do the filibuster? Will they nuke the filibuster? They should. They certainly should. And this goes into my previous points on previous shows where I've talked about, the accountability aspect of all of this and the intel oligarchy that's run a color revolution against the American people for at least the last decade. But specifically, around the idea that we would ever select Donald Trump, to represent us, and how that's, infuriated everyone. Everyone with power, anyone whose pocketbook is going to get lighter, who, basically leeches off of the government. They're very upset about that, and that's been part of the color revolution that's gone on. And if nobody's held accountable, you're also looking at a great demoralization psyop. Because, like I was saying earlier, the midterms are complicated because you also have to talk about the blunders that have happened to this administration so far, right? I mean, it's probably not a really good idea. It's probably not something that's going to boost or energize independent voters when you say things like the Epstein files are a hoax, right? That's probably not going to be a very energizing thing for not only your base, but also independents that are aware of the Epstein situation and the blackmail.
But I thought we'd have a discussion after the press leaves about what last night represented and what we should do about it, and also about the shutdown and how that relates to last night. I think if you read the pollsters, the shutdown was a big factor, negative for the Republicans, and that was a big factor. And they say that I wasn't on the ballot was the biggest factor, but I don't know about that, but I was honored that they said that. And I just want to thank everybody for being here.
So that was the close, and they went into a backroom meeting. The press leaves. He also said this, though.
If I thought that they weren't going to pass the filibuster, I wouldn't even bring it up. They're going to pass it within the first hour. If they take power, and it's more likely that they take power if we don't do it, because we're not going to be passing any legislation. They're not going to approve anything. We're going to go 3.25 years. There won't be one bill that we're going to pass. Because the easiest thing to pass is exactly right now what they won't pass. And they'll do that, and they'll wreak havoc. But let's assume they get it. They're doing it anyway, so it wouldn't matter. They're doing it anyway. And, I have a case where I have great U.S. attorneys that can't be approved because of the blue slips. The blue slips, I think you should terminate blue slips, too. It's a mental termination because it's really a custom.
So, yeah. There's a reason we call it the swamp. One of the key aspects of the swamp is that, these institutions and their pomp and their circumstance, or in this case, their rules, they are there to not just protect the institution, but protect the powerful and the people that run it. And let's just call what is the filibuster? Practically, for you and me, the filibuster prevents the American people from getting what we voted for. Now, I'm also not saying there's not a lot of really bad things that could happen too, but I mean, at this point, how much, what are we even fighting to protect? Yeah, things could get way worse. It could always be worse, but I mean, do we have any institutional knowledge of what the country has been through over the last 10 years? I saw people let me see if I can find this. Well, let's listen to a few more clips first. Here's Tommy Tuberville. Here's Senator Tuberville from Alabama.
Okay, if we need to bust it, let's bust it. Let's knock it down to 51 and let the Senate know that, listen, the power needs to go to the president and let him get something done. If we don't, we're going to lose our country. It's going to be over with. And so he's got 3 years. He's the last Trump that we'll have in office. He's hard-nosed. He believes in this country. Let's give him some support. If he wants to blow up the filibuster, I'm all for it.
All right, so that's 1 out of 100. That's 1. By the way, when he said he's the last Trump that's going to be in office, I wonder what Barron Trump thinks of that. Something to think about. But then you get Senator John Kennedy.
I explained to him, I said, Mr. President, the job of a senator is not just to advance good ideas. The job of a senator is also to kill bad ideas.
And how did you take your response?
Well, like you would expect.
Not happy?
He wasn't unhappy. I mean, the president didn't yell or anything. Of course, he's never yelled at me. There's always a first time, but he doesn't agree with me. And sometimes reasonable people disagree. But my personal opinion, I could be wrong, but I doubt it. We're not going to change the filibuster or the blue slip while we're in charge during your or my natural lifetime.
So that ultimately means there has to.
It's possible that if you had actual voter election integrity reform, you got rid of the machines, you went to paper ballots, you got rid of mail-in voting at the very least, and you put voter ID in, it is possible that the Democrats would never win a national election ever again. It's possible because that's how bad it is. That's how bad they cheat in these blue areas. And the Republican Party, the grand old party, has the power right now to do something about that and really Johnny sweep the legs out from under the Democrat Party for a very, very long time. And this is the Democrat Party that, of course, is anti-family and going full communism and is anti-God and all of these people that framed Trump for treason, if they don't go to jail or are held accountable when they do get back in power with more stolen elections, what do? They're going to come after you and me. I firmly believe that. I mean, the writing is on the wall. And we've seen it play out in other countries, and we've seen it play out in history. So I've been beating this drum saying, if we pull our punches and we don't use the power that we have, you're setting the average American up for total communism in the very near future. And that's why this is so critical. But when we're 10 months into the administration, and yeah, we do have an indictment of Comey. That's good. Bolton, that's good. Letitia James. But there's so much more evidence out there. I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. This is John Solomon from Just the News criticizing Pam Bondi. Watch.
And yesterday, to give you a sense of where our Attorney General is, she did an Epstein Documents 2.0 on all of us. She did it. She put out this tweet, got a lot of traffic, great Fox News story. Oh, my God, guess what I discovered? I discovered that Joe Biden gave up Donald Trump's phone and Mike Pence's phone to Jack Smith. That's great, Madam Attorney General, except that story came out in April. She wasn't even aware that wasn't a new development, but an old development that had been discussed by Senators Grassley and Johnson for months. If you want to fix the perp walk problem, if you want to fix the opportunity to bring accountability, Kash Patel has the evidence. The prosecutors, with the exception of Halligan, are lagging far behind the evidence, and that sand clock is ticking down not only on statute of limitations, but on the time that occurs in between elections. 26 elections already underway. We're missing really valuable time to educate the public. The American people are missing valuable time. I don't think DOJ is getting there. When you see that there was a 6-month delay in this document, when you see the Attorney General presenting something new that is old, she's so far behind the facts, I'm really worried that Donald Trump doesn't have the team that can bring accountability to the Justice Department. That's just my reporting. And by the way, that's what many Justice Department and members of Congress have been saying to me privately over the last 4 weeks.
So, obviously that confirms. I mean, look, you can't handle the Epstein case the way she did. And, I mean, in this journalist's opinion, the benefit of the doubt for Pam Bondi was all wasted. Any capital you had was essentially all expunged or wasted, with the way she handled Epstein, and the binders on my desk and all that stuff. I mean, you can't, there's no way of getting around it, and of obviously what it did to the independent voter support. I mean, it just is what it is. It's just a fact. But whatever, okay. Maybe she'll produce this, maybe she'll produce that. We've got so much evidence, whether it's on Obama, Clapper, Brennan, all of it. Now we know Jack Smith was going to do show trials if Kamala had won and was going to try people in absentia and throw hundreds of people in jail, was investigating Turning Point USA. Oh, by the way, and this is all happening, now with hindsight, they assassinated Charlie Kirk. And we're just kind of sitting here waiting on, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And now even John Solomon, the guy, the Just the News guy who breaks all these stories, John Solomon is now throwing shade at Pam Bondi, saying, yeah, she's sharing a story from 6 months ago as like it's breaking news. And so Pam Bondi is very good on Fox News. She's very good to go on Fox News. She probably does like it. But if she's not aware of stuff that, they got Trump's phone records, if she's not aware of that until October when it happened in April, what exactly is going on? And then that brings up another, point, and I'm not the first to make it. Who's really calling the shots at the DOJ? And that's when you get to people like Todd Blanche. You get to people who are underneath Pam Bondi. And likewise, who's calling the shots at the White House? Well, it's common knowledge that if you want to get something in front of Trump's face, you're going to have to go through his chief of staff, who is Susie Wiles. And we've got a bombshell story that's supposedly about to drop at the Blaze, and they're insinuating that they've got the J6 pipe bomber. They know who the J6 pipe bomber is, and he is one of ours at the highest levels of government, and his name is supposed to drop sometime tomorrow. What's going to happen to that guy? Are we going to have to wait 6 months before something happens with that? And the answer appears to be yes. So you can tell that I'm pretty frustrated today, and I don't mean to black pill. That's not what I want to do. I don't want to black pill. But we do have to be honest about where we are, where we've been, where we are. Things could be a lot worse, right? President Trump won a year ago today. Praise the Lord. However, the swamp is deep. By the way, you don't hear a lot about draining the swamp anymore, do you? Wonder why that is. Folks, I want to turn now to a friend of mine. Matt Troy is with us from Red Vive Health and the great folks over at redvivehealth.org. Matt Troy, welcome back to the show, sir. Thanks so much, brother.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I get, you have me in the waiting room watching your show before, and I get so into it. It's such a good show, and I tend to I think I agree with you 99.99% of the time. I know that's totally separate from what we're discussing here as far as our health and wellness and red light, but it's hard not to get into your show. It's very good, and I couldn't agree more with all your sentiments.
Well, I appreciate. Right. I certainly appreciate that. I mean, and again, I don't mean to black pill, Matt, because I do think there is a path forward, obviously, and I don't despair. I think despair is a sin, but it is very frustrating as you walk down the line, and so much of what the American people vote for just seems to be, we're dependent on these other people in power to allow it to happen, and there just seems to be a resistance to that, and so it's just extremely frustrating.
I mean, will of the people, man. I mean, he's been fought every way, and I feel like at some point it's kind of like when people resist arrest, don't you at some point have to force them into the vehicle and take them to jail? Like, I mean, there's a resistance, and that's not what the people voted for. So that's my personal opinion. Not all the, I'm Red Vibe, and we're supposed to be.
Sorry about that. Maybe we need to have you on and not do a Red Vibe segment and just get your political takes. And we'll even put a disclaimer, the opinions of Matt Troy are his own and, no one else's.
Yeah. And speaking of disclaimers, I actually, the black suits now tell me that I have to say before we get into this that this is not intended to treat or cure any illnesses, and your individual results may vary. But with that said,
well, let me just start. The proof is in the pudding. So we're talking about red light therapy, folks, if you don't know. And the reason that I have partnered with Red Vibe is because this is great technology that many people don't know about. And it's technology that I think the medical industrial complex and big pharma don't really want you to know about, because you basically need to go to the doctor less. I mean, if it works for you, you need less pain meds. You get to get off of this. You're a lifetime customer of big pharma hamster wheel. And so that's one of the reasons why. But I want to start with you, Matt. Why did you decide to start this company, Red Vibe?
Yeah, so my story, and I'd been on a couple times, but I didn't really get into it as much. I'm an MMA guy. I've fought in the cage, probably one of the most brutal sports that you can choose to do. I'm not getting good at golf, and I was a wrestler growing up, and so that's what I've done. And I wanted to do it despite my injuries from that sport. And so I met with a regenerative medicine doctor who introduced me to red light therapy years ago. This is like long before anybody really was into it and heard of it. He was very cutting edge. He did stem cells and PRP for me. And he said, if you use this red light with near infrared and the right rays, it'll increase collagen synthesis, reduce inflammation, just all the wonderful things. And I thought it was snake oil because there was just so many things that he said it would do. And it helped me significantly, but I had to kind of geek out on it a little bit. And I wanted to make sure I knew that I was getting a proper product, like that actually had the power, like clinical grade power and things like that. And nobody ever really showed me how to dose it and use it properly. I kind of had to do my own research, and now you can use AI and, all these different things to try to figure it out. But I wanted I wanted to start something that, was backed by not only science. So I brought in this doctor that introduced it to me. He's a partner, part owner. And he went and met with all the top scientists in London at the photobiomodulation, big fancy word for photobiomodulation, or PBM is big fancy for the science of light and how light affects our bodies biologically. And so we kind of narrowed everything down to the beam angle, which is the way the light spreads out from the LED, the power that pushes it through. So, one of the issues that I found was there was so many gimmicks out there and just companies that not only would they not show you how to dose it and use it properly, but they didn't third-party test. Their power wasn't enough to do anything but go into the dermis and the epidermis. To truly, get to your joints, reduce pain and inflammation, you got to get deep 2 inches into the tissue. Which is what our panels do. And you have to have real power, you have to have the right beam angle, and you have to have the right wavelengths of light. So to answer your question, I wanted something that was comprehensive that people could just buy. Everybody that buys a panel, we don't just sell you a panel and then leave you alone. We make sure you dose it and use it properly. We have a consultation with you. Once we see an order come in, we call you, make sure you're using it properly. And that it's endorsed by now we are in hundreds of doctors' offices across the country, because the model that I went with was backed by doctors. I went to a doctor first, and then because of our relationship, Paul, with you, and you're like kind of the first time we've gone direct to consumer, and the rest is all just a network of doctors that we leverage to basically get the word out there and make sure that the doctors themselves can actually explain how to use it properly. And if they don't do that, then obviously they can always call and we can get them some instruction also. But
so when you talk about like the beam angle and the power, the right, I don't know, the correct power, I don't know if that's voltage or what. Is that what you would say sets Red Vive apart from other red light panels?
I would say that our beam angle and then the combination. There's probably other panels that have similar wavelength combinations, but I would say the combination, to use the phrase combination, we got a combination of power, beam angle, and all of it comprehensively together with the 4 wavelengths. We have 635, 670, which are in the red range. And then, so they're bright red. When I say 635, 670, that's the nanometers. That's the length in the distance in the crest as you would look at see the wavelength of light. But then you have the 810 and 850. And I don't want to get too much into the weeds on it, but those 4, there's other wavelengths that a lot of companies add in there and they throw in there that could be helpful in certain ways, but those 4 are the best for sleep, from what we found, sleep and regenerative medicine. And so, we're in hundreds of doctors' offices across the country that they prescribe our clinical grade lights to their patients. We're now offering it to your viewers and directly because we want to get the word out there. But yeah, no, we also show people we talk to them and we call everybody and make sure they're using it. Doesn't go through clothing. You got to be 6 to 12 inches away from the device. It gets exponentially weaker if you're at like 18 inches. So some people could be just sitting at home thinking they're using it and saying, "Oh, this doesn't seem to do too much." That's because it's going through their genes and they're 18 inches away, and they only have the red button pressed, and they don't have the NIR, which is the near infrared button pressed. And there's some things that you need to know. But after about a 5-minute talk, people are like, "Oh, wow, that's pretty simple." They do it. And we've had, basically we had a 30-day money back guarantee in the beginning, and we literally went a year and didn't have one person return one. We've sold thousands. We actually had a meeting and we said, why don't we give them 60? Why not? Nobody's returned one at 30. Let's see if they can go. Let's see if we get any at 60. We did have a few once we went over 30. I think some people had concerns about one that had a pacemaker, and they thought that maybe that would affect their pacemaker, which it doesn't. The EMFs are 0. That's rated 0 EMFs past 6 to 12 inches. It's way less than even standing near your microwave. But we don't argue with anybody. If somebody wants to return one or something, they just maybe buyer's remorse or whatever. We don't ask questions. We don't want anybody to keep this that doesn't love it. And so, when I started this, I'll digress for a minute, Paul. When I started this, the reason I started this with my partners is I actually was loaning out my personal. I had a panel, basically I have one of these, and I would bring it around. I'd bring the panel everywhere, and I'd give it to my friends to use that were, oh man, my knee is killing me. I can't even golf. It's make it to the back 9. I've got severe inflammation, or I'm not sleeping well, or whatever. And every time I loaned it to somebody, they always wanted to keep it. They never gave it back. And that's when I knew, I'm like, okay, we need to make sure there's a company that talks to people about how to use it properly, how to dose it, and make sure that we have the proper wavelengths. There's so many gimmicks. So,
what exactly, can you go over, like, specifically in your case, what did the red light help you with, specific ailments, anything like that?
Yeah, so obviously I mentioned I'm a fighter, so I've broken my hand, I've blew my ACL, I've herniated 2 discs in my back and my neck, had them fused. I've had 4 shoulder surgeries. I mean, I could just go on and on. So the number one thing that it did for me was it was like an analgesic for pain, which means that it actually the rays, the specific wavelengths of light dull the pain receptors as you experience pain. And everybody listening probably right now has probably experienced, excruciating pain or regular pain at some points in their lives. What this does is it'll actually take those signals. When you experience pain, that's a signal being sent to your brain saying, ouch, I'm in pain, right? So it will take the signal and dull the signal down by reducing inflammation and actually interacting. There's a chemical reaction that takes place, and it'll actually, I'm not going to get too much in the weeds explaining how it works, but you guys can also AI all this, and it'll actually dull the pain receptors or the pain signals. And then if you use it also, and I use it on my face and use it and it hits my blood-brain barrier, it actually diminishes the way the brain perceives pain. And so the studies now that have come out, and they've actually talked about, you perceive pain a certain way and you get the signals a certain way, and it happens to dull both of them. And so it's not just like masking pain, it's like eliminating it. And then over time, you just don't have the pain anymore. So I've been able to, I probably look kind of rugged over the years here, but I'm almost 50, and my body, my face maybe looks older, but my body feels great. I'm still training. I'm actually training for a fight in January. And
oh, wow.
I've been doing this for 11 years. I still, by the way, we offer goggles to cover, our tails, and people might have.
So hang on, you're almost 50 and you're training for a fight. What's that like? I know we're getting off topic here, but what's that like? Where are you fighting?
Oh man! So they actually have. I have two cards that I'm trying to get booked for, and I usually will pick whichever one comes first. But one is up in Vancouver, and I'm in the Northwest. So, and then we've got. There's another one that I'm actually trying, and that's in Eastern Washington. But what I do is I spend about because I've got 3 children, so it's just I'm in the busiest time of my life, but I want to stay healthy and fit, and if I don't have like some kind of something on a schedule or some type of I feel like something that I can point my finger at and say, hey, I'm actually going to do this on this date. It's hard for me to work out and get into that type of shape that you need to get into. But I use this now as it relates to Red Light Vibe. I use it as an overall health and wellness thing to keep me, I would say probably sleep is probably the number one thing that it does for me as far as calming me at night and helping me, kind of wakes me up in the morning. We talked about on the last show that we're not getting enough light. So we're indoors too often. I'm in this room and I'm working on a computer, and I'm indoors just like probably everybody else, probably about 85% of the time. I spend, 10 to 15% outside of my car or outside. And so I'm deficient in light just like everybody else is. And we're bodies are biologically wired not to be inside. We're designed to be outdoors, probably 85%.
100%.
And then,
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to know, well, first of all, I'll just say this. I think Red Vibe, when you go into the ring or the octagon or whatever, I think that you need to have like a Red Vibe logo on your trunks or on your shorts. I think that's
that's a great idea.
I really, you do. You need to promote it and be like, man, we got this huge sponsor that's sponsoring Matt Troy. That's what you need to do. But I want to know about blood flow. Okay, without having to get into the scientific weeds of photobiomodulation. What exactly is going on? Like the average person, they sit down, they turn the red light on, they're 6 to 12 inches in front of it. They're getting the UV, or not the UV, they're getting the red light, they're getting the near infrared light. What's actually going on in their body when that happens?
Yeah. So, I guess getting into the weeds a little bit on why it healed some of these injuries so much more efficiently with the PRP and stem cells. PRP is platelet-rich plasma, and that's usually when these regenerative medicine doctors spin your blood and they get all the platelets, and then they get those platelets and then they inject it into where your injury is. They do that because in certain areas that won't heal, like your cartilage in your knee and your labrum in your shoulder, your labrum in your hips, they don't heal because we don't have enough blood flow. And blood flow is how the body heals. That's the number one reason why certain areas of the body don't heal. Like inside your mouth, you have so many capillaries, so much blood flow that when you get a cut inside your mouth, it heals really quickly, right? Because there's plenty of blood flow. Same with really your face and just areas that get good blood flow that will heal quicker, but your mouth is definitely noticeable. You'll get a cut and it's healed in 2 days. So what this device does is it allows much more significant blood flow. It increases what they say the vasodilation, which is opening up the veins, right, and allowing that blood to get in there. And then when you do that daily, consistently, you will heal 3 times faster than you would if you just didn't do it. And in the meantime, you're killing you're eliminating in most cases the pain, which reduces the inflammation, and that inflammation makes it harder to heal. So the blood flow is probably a huge part of why it heals so much faster. And I've actually, even with skin, I burned like my hands cooking, like this isn't like a scientifically documented thing. I think I told you about this, Paul, when it happened, bro. I burned both my hands. And I thought, okay, why don't I just put one under the red light and I'm going to keep one behind my back while I lay under this thing. And my hand healed like 3 times the one that I had under the light. I actually wish I'd have taken pictures every day of it and documented it. I'm sure they wouldn't have let me, I don't think, enter that into the scientific.
No, I get it. I mean, I've I have one at my house. I have a Red Vive machine. Look, I know it works. I'm not surprised at all by that because, I mean, it just seems like the benefits of these things are unending. And I think it's because, like you say, the blood flow, it gets things going. I mean, I've seen results from it, whether it's sleep, whether it's, chronic pain, or whether I hurt myself. Okay, well, I'm going to do some red light. And you feel good pretty much instantly, but then over the long term, it can really help with deep muscle problems or anything like that, tendons, that sort of thing. It really, you can just tell. You can tell that it's working. So something you have to see or you have to experience to believe, and that's why you can get 35% off if you go to redvivehealth.org/Paul. That's 35% off these panels if you use my promo code Paul, or go to the link, or you can call, you see it on the screen there, 844-RED-VIVE. That's 844-RED-VIVE. And sometimes if you call 844-RED-VIVE, you never know. Matt Troy himself may actually answer the phone. Isn't that right, Matt?
Yeah, I do like to interact, and I like to hear follow-ups. I've got literally hundreds of people that have, continue to want to stay in contact. And I like hearing their stories and how they're sleeping better and just their overall general health and wellness. So I do like to, we keep it pretty lean because we try to offer, we spend extra money on third-party testing and a lot of the things that the other companies probably don't do. So we keep it lean here. So I like to answer and talk to the people anyway. So,
well, yeah. I appreciate you coming on, sir, and we'll do it again soon. And I'm hoping that this audience will take charge of their health and not be a slave to Big Pharma Medical Industrial Complex. These clinical strength red light panels can be yours, folks. Matt Troy, we appreciate it, sir. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Yep. Thank you so much again for having me.
Absolutely. We'll do it again soon. Folks, we were talking earlier about the this filibuster situation, and here's some people out there that I just want to highlight that are making me very, very, very angry. Not like legitimately angry, but you know what I mean, like frustrating. Grover Norquist, a name I haven't heard in a long time, right? Back in the beginning of the Tea Party, back in 2010, Grover Norquist, man, he was on that Americans for Prosperity circuit. I mean, he was going to every state. Grover Norquist, the GOP should preserve the filibuster, he says. The filibuster prevented Democrats from passing cap-and-trade, single-payer health care, forced unionization, statehood for D.C. and Puerto Rico, and packing the Supreme Court. Schumer is baiting Republicans to end the filibuster with this shutdown. Don't take the bait. They are close to caving. Don't give Democrats an inch. Now, there's so much to unpack here, but the last part, don't give Democrats an inch, is just such... It's ironic. It's gaslighting. It's not true. Don't give Democrats an inch. That's all that we do. That's all that conservatives do because we don't really conserve anything. And so people are asking them to use the power they have, actually give the American people what they want. And people, from the old guard like Grover Norquist are saying, no, you're going to give the Democrats exactly what they want. And I think these people just really have no grasp. They certainly have no grasp of what people in my generation and younger have gone through and are currently going through. But let's just take this for a second, okay? The filibuster, he says, prevented Democrats from passing cap and trade. Remember, that would be the carbon tax and everything else? Okay. But, I mean, it certainly didn't prevent Democrats from using climate change and, winning elections via climate change and making people, essentially, the Gaia worship. All of remember the Paris Climate Accords, it didn't prevent that. You could make the argument that the Democrats going full communist and passing cap and trade back in Obama's day might have resulted in people waking up faster to what the Democrats were really doing. Sometimes these people want a rope. You just gotta let them do what they're going to do with the rope. You know what I mean? Let's talk single-payer health care. Oh, they would have passed single-payer health care without the filibuster. Yeah, and instead we got Obamacare, which has been a disaster, which is a disaster, at this point, looking back, to 2008, 2009, 2010, what's the difference, single-payer health care and Obamacare at this point? Aside from maybe the insurance companies would have been mad. Forced unionization, statehood for D.C. and Puerto Rico, and packing the Supreme Court. Look, the bottom line is this. We don't conserve anything. This is why the term conservative is now being abandoned by a lot of people, and I don't blame them. I still think it's fine to identify as a conservative. I get it, but you know what I mean. What have we conserved? When do we actually move the ball down the field? When are we just playing defense? When are we not just only playing defense? And it really hasn't happened in my lifetime. You get the guy who you think is going to go on offense, which is Trump, and then the people around him are gatekeepers, or the senators don't want to end the filibuster. And again, one of the reasons they don't want to end the filibuster, some of these Republicans, is because they don't want to vote against the Trump agenda, but they know their donors will want them to vote against the Trump agenda, which would thereby expose them to their voters back home as actually not being who they say they are, total frauds. So the filibuster right now, in effect, shields liberal, progressive, woke Republicans from having to out themselves. The filibuster enables them to scapegoat the Democrats. Oh, well, it's the Democrats. For $5 or $10, you can help my campaign out, because I want to go back to D.C. and fight the Democrats. But when I have the opportunity to end the filibuster, to actually get what the American people voted for through quickly, things like paper ballots or ending the voting machines or just ending mail-in ballots or just going to voter ID. I mean, if you did the mail-in ballots and voter ID, that would go a long way. I think the voter machines have to go as well, though. I mean, it's called artificial intelligence, ladies and gentlemen. It makes no sense to allow these voting machines to exist with the technology that we have today. It's crazy. It is absolutely nuts. You just have to think about it for 2 seconds. It is crazy. It is nuts. The potential for manipulation is off the charts. I'm sorry. I can't do it. Okay, so here we go. Here's Todd Starnes of Fox Radio. He says 10 months after the inauguration, and nothing has been codified. States are ignoring Trump's executive orders, and there have been no consequences. The do-nothing Republican Congress has done nothing, absolutely nothing. Hearings galore, but no one has been held accountable for weaponizing our government. All those documents and the files, the FBI and the DOJ that they were going to release, we're still waiting. And why aren't we defunding taxpayer-funded schools that refuse to follow the executive orders on boys and girls sports? And why haven't they dismantled the Department of Education? It's so many things, on and on and on. And again, you've got John Solomon, of all people. John Solomon is now criticizing Pam Bondi and saying she's not it. She's not the one that's going to get the job done. She's posting stories like they were breaking news that's 6 months old, but then going on Fox News. It's insane. It's insane. What are we doing? What are we doing? I really miss Eric Haynes being here. Eric Haynes would kind of pull me back right now, and he would be a lot more hopeful. And again, I'm not despairing, okay? I think there's a path forward, but I think it starts with honesty. And so contact your senator. Wherever you are, wherever you're listening, contact your senator and tell them to back Trump and end the filibuster. And look, I know there could be unintended consequences. I know that would mean that maybe they could get some really bad bills through. Maybe Republicans would even pass some really bad bills. Okay, I get it. But with paper ballots and no voter ID, you're looking, and it may be several steps, but I'm sorry, I don't mean to be. I really mean this. You're looking at Christians in boxcars. The Democrats, we get back in power, that's what you're looking at. It's a very real possibility. I believe that. You may think I'm crazy. You may think I'm being a sensationalist, but I really, truly believe that. We now know because of Jack Smith's emails that Ed Martin obtained that they were in coordination and they were going to do mass arrests. They were going to do the mass arrests. The mass arrests that we need to do. Charlie Kirk was assassinated. People celebrated. The Attorney General candidate for Virginia had his text messages exposed where he wished for the death of his political opponent and the death of his children. And Virginia Democrats went and voted for him and said they didn't care. So I'm going to beat this point. I'm going to beat a dead horse here, but both sides in this country believe they have the moral high ground. And there is an increasing realization that coexistence, as the game is currently set up now, barring supernatural intervention, coexistence is less and less possible. And if they want you dead, then of course. I mean, like, if they want the other side dead, if they can't make their arguments, they can't convince you with your arguments. Like, the Republicans at this point, in terms of Trump, convince the nation with their arguments. That's why they have power right now. They convince the nation with their arguments. The difference between normal and crazy, men and women's sports, no. And so the left was rejected. And now the left needs to be winnowed, and all of their crimes, and this includes rhinos or the people in the Uniparty who are Republicans that were also part of all of this, people need to be held accountable for it. But instead, we got the Epstein files as a hoax. Excuse me. Which was the lowest point of the year for the Trump administration. The lowest point. Let's talk about accountability, okay? We'll go here. So, this morning on Glenn Beck's radio program, he interviewed Blaze reporter Steve Baker. Supposedly, Steve Baker is dropping a bombshell story sometime tomorrow that is going to name the January 6th pipe bomber. And he says that the January 6th pipe bomber was somebody in the government or in the intel oligarchy. I want you to listen to this.
Let me just tell you this. When I stumbled on what I stumbled on, and because as I said, I've been pulling these threads for years, and I pulled one last Wednesday, 2 weeks ago today, rather. And when I pulled this thread, I was so shocked by what I saw, I immediately took it to a source in one of the most important, highest level investigative federal agencies in the country. I immediately took it to our sources there, and I said, you have to see this. After they looked at it for about 2 hours, the response that I got back was, holy F. And then the follow-up response was, she's one of us.
And when you find out the position, this is going to lead, it's not just this one person. This now will implicate so many people at the highest levels that had to have known, because of what happened after January 6th. I mean, it's I mean, how big does this net get?
What happened after January 6th? All challenging of electors was tabled. All investigation. We want more information. We want to get to the bottom of this. Any idea of sending it back to the state legislatures was annulled, all because of J6. And populism was squashed, or they attempted to squash it. We're going to end populism. We're going to throw all these Trumpers in a gulag. We're going to use some Enron statute to do it. All of it happened. It was a giant Fedsurrection. It was a false flag. It was the deep state version of the Reichstag fire, and it happened. And the pipe bomb is the biggest story. I mean, Beatty over at Revolver, when he worked for Revolver, he did a lot of stuff on the pipe bomber. Like they just dropped it. You know why? Because they found out, if this story is true, that you never heard anything about the pipe bomber after the initial scare, because they found out the pipe bomber was one of them. And who else knew? So allegedly, the name is going to be dropped tomorrow. According to Steve Baker of The Blaze, they have the name, and they have the name because they matched the gait of somebody they know, and they have the video of the pipe bomber.
I don't know, but I will tell you there's a reason why. Look, there's a $500,000 reward on that, and there's a reason why I didn't take it to the people offering, or the agency or the bureau offering the reward. It's because we believe that they were actively engaged in the cover-up.
If this is true and it is the FBI, okay, if it's true and it's the FBI, the FBI should be abolished. It should be completely abolished. It should be completely undone. And I think that was a huge blunder. I mean, I know Kash Patel thought he could reform it. I don't think that's possible. And if the FBI, if the guy who planted the pipe bomb is confirmed to be a high level or even just a mid-level, but they're saying it's a high level basically FBI. Why else wouldn't Steve Baker take it to who's posting the fire? I'm assuming it's the FBI offering $500,000 for information about the pipe bomber, and he says, I'm not taking it to them. I don't trust them. So where did he take it? I don't know. Did he take it to military intelligence? Did he take it to Tulsi Gabbard? I don't know. But he says there, OMG, he's one of us.
No, look, Glenn, I don't have, as a investigative journalist.
So anyway, he goes on to talk about how they ran this through software, that can match the gait of somebody, the height they are, the gait of how they walk, and it came back a 94% match of whoever this person is that they're about to name tomorrow. And I say all that to say, where's the accountability? What's going to happen? And this thing is, how many more of these things do we have to have? How many more? Just like John Solomon said, everything is piling up at the DOJ, and they're not doing anything because they got a bunch of attorneys there that don't want to do anything because they're in on. And by the way, that's another thing. If this is actually public knowledge, common knowledge, and it's about to be confirmed that yes, everything we thought, it wasn't just the FBI agents in the crowd, it wasn't just the Capitol Police letting people in the building. No, they were actually it was a coordinated, Ocean's 11 style. We're going to set MAGA up to do all of this. If that's really what happens. And then you got the DOJ that doesn't want to do anything because the mid-level attorneys don't want to do their jobs. We're slaves, man. It doesn't matter who you put in office. We're slaves. I mean, I don't see how you come to any other conclusion than that. And this is why we've got to have men with chests, and it's time to take the power that we have and actually use it. And if you don't, you are condemning Americans to communism. Hard, mask off communism. So, continue to pray for the people who are in power. Pray for their salvation. Pray that they would be surrounded by people who are Christians and would give them wise counsel. And pray for the darkness to be exposed. Pray for the light to expose the darkness in our civil realm, because we need it. We need it spiritually, but we need for the good of our children. We need this stuff to come out, and it needs to be exposed. That's all the time that I have for this edition of the Paul Harrell program. Again, a programming note: no show tomorrow, or Friday, or Monday. I am going to be tied up for the next few days, and I'm going to be hopefully putting a deer in the dirt. And with my 270, I will probably once again be convinced that Charlie Kirk was not shot with a 30-06. I'm going to test the hypothesis this weekend. So God bless everybody out there watching. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day and weekend. And just know that we can't do the show without you. And shout out to our sponsors: New Horizon Real Estate, Gateway Sight and Sound, T-Guard Bail Bonds. Make sure to call Cody Powers if you're in trouble, and Sherrod Chiropractic, and Red Vive. Thanks to Matt Troy for sharing some good, healthy information with us. We'll see you soon.